Some weird noise coming out of the back. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Bruckman.
Present.
Councilmember Ross. Present. Councilmember Tapia.
Present.
Councilmember Littlewer.
Here.
Councilmember Stone.
Here.
Councilmember Bloomberg.
Here.
Mayor Rodering.
Here, we have a quorum. I think you'll figure it out. Okay, thank you. Why don't we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Mayor, you also want to determine Councilman Tapia's, Councilmember
That
Tapia.
first, okay. Councilmember Tapia, as I asked you earlier, what's the best sport?
Football.
Okay, it sounds like you. Thank you. All right, all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular city council meeting held November 25, 2024?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you. Those minutes are approved. May I have a motion to approve the warrant list?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions about the warrant list? Any from the public? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the vote?
Councilmember Bruckman.
Aye.
Councilmember Ross. Aye. Councilmember Tapia.
Aye.
Councilmember Littlewer.
Aye.
Councilmember Stone. Aye. Councilmember Bloomberg.
Aye.
Mayor Rodering.
Aye, 7 ayes, no nays, and the warrant list is approved. We will now move to the report of the mayor. Before we continue with our business this evening, I'd like to ask everybody to take a moment of silence for the victims of the shooting which occurred earlier today at a school in Madison, Wisconsin. Thank you. It's heartbreaking to see yet another community grapple with the trauma of mass gun violence, and we will obviously share our support and solidarity with everybody impacted by this tragedy, particularly the grieving school community of Abundant Life Christian School and the first responders and health workers who responded to this violent incident. News like this may be re-traumatizing, and I just encourage anybody who is feeling anxious here in Highland Park to please contact the city's resiliency division. We can connect you to support services. Resilienthp.org is a place to go for more information. Let us also pause for a moment to remember the 96 people, including 7 Americans, who have been held hostage in Gaza since October of 2023. Over the next few weeks, as families celebrate holidays and the start of the new year, may we continue to hold them and their families in our hearts. It is particularly difficult to miss loved ones at this special time of year, and though we can't imagine their pain, we extend support and strength to their families, particularly those in Highland Park. Continuing on with the report of the mayor, I have appointments this evening. The City of Highland Park has 18 commissions, boards, and advisory groups with resident volunteers who are appointed by the mayor with city council consent. These organizations were formed to provide guidance to the city council and to adhere to existing municipal regulations. Members of the city's appointed bodies serve term lengths that coincide with the calendar year, and so coinciding with the beginning of 2025, I am recommending the following appointments and reappointments and seeking this council's consensus. To the Business and Economic Development Advisory Group, reappointment Erwin Bernstein, January 1, 25 to December 31st, 26. Appointing Olivia Garber, January 1, 25 to December 31st, 2026. And appointing Wendy Gimbel, January 1st, 25 to December 31st, 26. To the Cultural Arts Advisory Group, appointing Diana Grana from January 1, 2025 to December 31st, 2026. And Pamela Matiosian from January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2026. Historic Preservation Commission, Gwen Falcone from January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2028. And Travis Hardinger from January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2028. To the Housing Commission, reappointing Isis Fernandez Sykes, January 1, 25 to December 31st, 2028. The Human Relations Advisory Group, reappointing the following individuals with the related terms. David Bazard, 1/1/25 to December 31st, 26. Janaea Harris, 1/1/25 to December 31st, 2026. Ian Jazanoff, January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2026. Terry Tiersky, January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2026. Lori Flores Weisskopf, January 1st, 25 to December 31st, 2026. And appointing Deborah Lynch, January 1st, 25 to December 31st, 2026. To the Library Board of Trustees, reappointing Robert Biederman, January 1st, 2025 to 12/31/28. Plan and Design Commission, reappointing Josh Nanis, January 1, 25 to December 31st, 2028. David Fettner, January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2025. That's filling a vacancy. And appointing Christian Inchak, January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2028. The Police Pension Board, reappointing Matthew Ganal, May 13th, 2025. Is that the case and not January? I'm not quite sure why we're May 13th. Let's say January 1st, 2025, and if it's May, then we'll find out why. Although this also goes until May 11th, 2027, so presumably we know what we're doing, and those are the days of his appointment. Sustainability Advisory Group, Stephanie Forster, January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2026. Transportation Advisory Group, appointment to Chair, Elliot Rawson, January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2026. Appointment to Vice Chair, Brent Ross, January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2026. Appointing Matthew Arbit, January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2026. And Jessica D. Scott, appointed January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2026. Zoning Board of Appeals, reappointing Alexis Yablon from January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 28. And appointing Scott Weisberg, January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2028, and Craig Wolf, January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2028. Council members, do I have your consensus to these appointments? I see heads nodding. Councilmember Tapia?
Yes.
Yes, excellent. Thank you all. Thank you to those who are providing your service to our community. We look forward to working with you. We have no proclamations this evening. We do have other business, and I asked City Manager Newkirk to join me in sharing a brief legislative update that I thought was really important for us all to be aware of as we head into 2025. I will send it to you and then follow up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. We did want to share with the public that the City of Highland Park is a member of a couple of different councils of government that provide us advocacy. They provide us information about potential legislative initiatives that may have an impact on our organization as well as others throughout the state, as well as analysis on legislative considerations. The legislative piece is one of many initiatives that they undertake on our behalf as well as other member communities. So briefly, those councils of government include the Northwest Municipal Conference, which represents 42 municipalities and 1 township in the region and several different counties. Mayor Rotering and I have both served on the executive board of the Northwest Municipal Conference and currently serve on their legislative committee. The Metro Mayor's Caucus provides a forum for Chicago metro area chief elected officials to collaborate on common problems and work toward a common goal of improving the quality of life for close to 300 cities, towns, and villages. The mayor was just elected chair of the Metro Mayor's Caucus to serve the upcoming year. And then the Illinois Municipal League is the statewide council of government representing close to 1,300 cities, villages, and towns in Illinois. And then they provide a robust legislative platform. The legislative agendas for those organizations are reflected on their website. And I want to highlight, I'm going to talk about 2 specific legislative initiatives that are on our radar. These are 2 of many, but just want to provide just very brief information this evening. And then the mayor is going to provide some additional information as well. So certainly, as the council is well aware, but for public information, in August, the governor signed legislation eliminating Illinois' 1% tax on groceries starting in 2026. So in Highland Park, the financial impact of that legislative action is about $830,000. Bannockburn, Palatine, and other municipalities in our area have already advanced a 1% tax to make them revenue neutral in that regard. And that's what even the state has indicated that municipalities should do if they need to be made whole on those taxes. So Highland Park, we've been working with municipalities in our immediate area, and we are planning to bring forward a recommendation for council consideration in the spring of next year, and that would take effect January 1, 2026. So it would be presented at a committee of the whole at a special workshop as we talk about the budget and plans for the upcoming year, and then formal action would have to be done at a city council meeting. The second initiative that we wanted to share is restoring the local government distributive fund to 10%. So the state income tax was enacted in 1969, and at that time, the governor sought assistance from the General Assembly, and a key element of that agreement was to establish this revenue sharing initiative, where local governments would receive a portion of the income tax revenue, and it would be deposited into the local government distributive fund. So until 2011, 10% of total income tax collections was dedicated to the local government distributed fund for distribution to municipalities and counties throughout the state. And then over the years, that percentage share has been reduced from 10% to 6%. It's creeped up a little bit, gone back down, so it's fluctuated. And so we've been really advocating to restore local government distributive fund back to that 10% in accordance with that original agreement. So we've been working diligently in that regard. There are a number of other legislative initiatives that we are monitoring, proposing, and working on with our councils of government. We also are in regular communication with our legislators that represent Highland Park. We have invited Senator Morrison and Representative Morgan to attend a meeting in February. And so at that time, they will come and share some of their legislative initiatives that they're going to be proposing, as well as talk about other initiatives that may impact us as an organization.
Great. Thank you for providing that background. So the reason why I asked Geeta to sort of bring this up to the council was there are going to be significant externally driven fiscal challenges coming our way in the next year, both at the federal level, but also at the state level. There's been a lot of signaling that there's already a significant budget deficit, major costs. I sent all of you an article or a set of articles from Crane Chicago Business that talked about the fiscal cliff for public transit. So in coordination with tonight's transit conversation, we heard a little bit about that. I wanted to get all of this onto everybody's collective radar because we know that we start our budget process again in April. Excuse me. And while it might sound great to say, I'm sure there are grants available for X, Y, and Z, I want us to be cognizant of the fact that that may not be the case in the coming few years. And so we need to be aware, we need to be keeping an eye on what's going on in Springfield in particular. And so these groups, these councils of government, also referred to as COGs, work together. It's not just a singular municipality saying we have a concern, but the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus represents 9 million people. The Northwest Municipal Conference represents 1.8 million people. Those are collective groups that are all working on the same efforts. Obviously, we're in good shape because we've got diversified revenue sources and we've been very fiscally responsible. But I just wanted to have sort of these external major issues that are coming down the pike on everybody's radar. So thank you so much, City Manager, for laying out that foundation. And if you have further questions, don't hesitate to reach out and we'll get those answers. Let's see. Next item is business from the council. Councilmember Ross, I know you said you had something you wanted to share.
I asked to share something, and this came to me as I was pouring over the packets for this evening, this weekend, a sort of verbal holiday card. I checked with nobody on this dais in writing this. Perhaps I should have, but I'm going with instinct here. It is only a year and a half into my term in this office, my very first. I'm not up for election at this time, not campaigning. So I hope that my words are received as being free from politics or campaigns and in the non-political spirit in which it is intended. City council, my fellow city council members may have different opinions on any issue, but I hope that as we enter the new year of 2025, that we can look forward with open hearts and open minds, both in terms of the community we serve and just as importantly, how we work together. Working well together is, of course, a sign of good service to the community. This is not about any specific issue, so I hope nobody turns my words into something I did not intend, but I feel it is important to share that I know each of us on council thinks we are doing our level best to serve the community. And to all residents of Highland Park, I share that from what I see from this dais, all of City Council, each of us see ourselves as your public servants. We serve you. All we feel is the weight of responsibility to serve the public well. That responsibility to me, and I believe to each of us on council, each and every one of us, is extremely humbling. And as a team in this coming new year, I hope we can build better bridges and deeper friendships on this council. And I wish everyone in the city, residents, city staff, and council colleagues, happy holidays and a happy 2025. And may every day ahead bring joy and peace to you and your loved ones. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Great message. Thank you. With that, I'm going to ask the city manager to provide the staff report.
Great, thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of reports on behalf of our team. We have 28 items on the omnibus agenda. All are recommended for approval. There's detailed staff reports for each of those. There is a resident that has requested to pull item number 1 pertaining to the memorandum of understanding between the City Historical Society and the library. And then based on one-on-one conversation with elected officials, it is recommended that we pull item number 11 pertaining to the monument sign at 1201 Park Avenue. In other news, wanted to provide a quick update on construction as we end this calendar year. So as the council knows, we have invested, we had budgeted $34 million in infrastructure investment this year, which is a significant amount and the greatest amount in more than a decade. So if individuals go to the city's website and you go under construction, you can see a very detailed information about the various different types of infrastructure investment pertaining to roads, utilities, facilities, forestry, so different work that's been undertaken in the last year. I do want to give special recognition to Ron Bannon, our Director of Public Works, for managing this significant work in addition to all the other data responsibilities that he has. So he leads a team at Public Works. And then special recognition to Manny Gomez, our city engineer, and Joe O'Neill, our Deputy Director of Public Works. So those three, but really everyone in the organization really has a hand and an impact in terms of the infrastructure investment. Also want to just give special appreciation and thanks to the community, our residents and businesses for their patience. Everyone likes when construction is done, but we recognize how difficult it is as people are certainly going through and navigating it. So the photos that you see here are some before and after pictures in the Briargate Business District. So significant investment in there. We've talked about the multi-million-dollar investment that we've made in the downtown district, again, kind of the heart of our community. And so special emphasis on the 2nd Street improvements, which was everything from an improved sewer, expanded build-outs along the sidewalk, new landscaping. There's significant coordination with our business community as well as the public. And then throughout the downtown district, it was a significant undertaking to resurface all the streets in downtown Highland Park. I've been contacted by a number of colleagues just saying, we want to know how you did that. And from their perspective, it looked very smooth. So they want to learn from us. And so we are happy to share lessons learned that we had certainly, but as well as the best practices that we did undertake to really help ensure a safe, smooth transition as part of these infrastructure investments. And then here's some photos of before and after of the 2nd and Elm parking lot, or commonly known as the Michaels parking lot. And then we had other parking lots that were also reconstructed, resurfaced. So you can see here before and after of City Hall, as well as the Ori North parking lot. And then again, this is just a snapshot of $34 million of work that took place throughout the community. So I encourage the public to go to our website and take a look at any project information. And then shortly, we are going to be populating the website with the 25 capital improvement plan. with, again, making sure that it really reinforces the city council's priority of infrastructure investment. Want to give a quick update on a transit study that was presented at the Committee of the Whole. So these bullet points that you see there are overview of information that was shared at the Committee of the Whole meeting. So that live stream of that meeting can be found on the city's website, as is the transit report, which is also posted to the website. But briefly, this is one of the major initiatives on our work plan this year. We worked with Civil Tech Engineering as well as partner agencies, which includes Ride Lake County, PACE, Moraine Township, and then we operate our own transit system to take a look at an analysis of the transit options that are currently available to residents as well as businesses in Highland Park and throughout the area. And then there was significant public engagement that was conducted to understand if people are not using the transit system, why aren't you using it? Are you aware of it? And so based on really more than 6 months of work and analysis, we put together a report and recommendation that was shared at the Committee of the Whole, and we thank you for your feedback that was provided at this previous meeting. So the next steps are detailed in there, and then we will add, for at least the short term on our 25 work plan, the initiatives that we had discussed at the Committee of the Whole, and then are also reflected on that work plan. Also wanted to share, as indicated, we do have a working relationship with PACE, and PACE is looking for input on the future of suburban transit for the entire PACE operation that they oversee. And this initiative is called Revision. And so they've prepared 3 service concepts for public review and input. If individuals go to that website that's listed there on the screen, they can get information about the transit services that PACE provides throughout the area, as well as complete a survey. And again, this is important from PACE's perspective as they look to identify where should their funding be located, where are gaps that they need to identify, as well as really what's the future of transit from their perspective. So we'll be promoting this on the e-news as well as other communication platforms as well. And then just shifting gears, just to one other thing. The 2025 major project work plan is currently being prepared by our staff. We are planning to present it in January to the mayor and city council. It will be also posted on the city's website. And then just a kind of quick overview of what the work plan is. So outside of our day-to-day operations, we identify major initiatives that are what we are proposing as a staff to undertake throughout the year. We present it to the mayor and city council. That work plan is based on feedback from staff, feedback from the public, as well as certainly our elected officials. And then that work plan is our guide throughout the year. So we identify what is planned to be undertaken, the approximate time frame each quarter that it's planned to be done. And then we provide quarterly updates at a public meeting, city council meeting, so the council and the public have updates of those initiatives. So again, we'll be posting that in January, and if anyone has any questions between now and then, invite you to contact us.
Great, thank you. But this isn't business from the public yet. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Sir, I'm asking you to please hold off and commenting until we get to business from the public. Thank you. Thank you,
That
City
concludes our
Manager Newkirk. Appreciate it. And with that, I'll ask Assistant to the City Manager Pawlicka to introduce the next item on our agenda, which is business from the public.
Thank you, Mayor. The next item on the agenda is business from the public. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the City Council on a topic that is within the council's purview and jurisdiction, but it is not listed on another location on the agenda. If you would like to speak about a matter that is listed on the agenda, we ask that you wait until the agenda item is called, and we will give you an opportunity to speak then. If your matter is on the omnibus or consent agenda, please let us know if you would like us to remove that matter from the consolidated list so that you can speak about it. Please be aware that business from the public is not intended to be a forum for open dialogue or engagement with members of the City Council. Rather, it is intended as an opportunity to make comments to the City Council. Please do not expect a response from anyone tonight. If appropriate, questions may be directed to the city manager or other city staff. All comments should be directed to the city council. All speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. We request that speakers refrain from throwing objects or using noisemakers, and that the public not applaud or make other comments after any speaker. We ask that everyone be respectful, civil, and non-repetitive.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Carl Lamprecht lives in Highland Park. That's me. I'm going to talk about parking. Many years ago, in the city of Chicago, I went to the Polish embassy, I should say Polish consulate, to get a visa to enter Poland. Now, in the process of doing this, I parked my car. And somebody from the consulate came out and I said I shouldn't do this. I pointed out to him that I was a paying customer. I was buying a visa. Somehow, as a government official, this didn't mean much. Now, somehow, throughout Highland Park, all the public parking spaces, people respect, and employees are not allowed to park in the parking spaces in front of the stores. Now, there's one exception. The city council parking is over here. Members of the city workers can park over here. Members of the public who come and go all day long we spend a few minutes, have to park some distance away across the street. I think this is something that could be taken care of. You have a new parking area, and that's simply great. Now I'm going to switch gears, and I'm going to talk about, in time of the Nazis in Auschwitz, 10 men were put in a room. They couldn't eat or drink. And after 2 weeks, 9 of them were dead from starvation. 1 was still alive. They gave him a lethal injection, and then they were all cremated, and that was the end of them. Now, in the United States, we have babies who are born alive. They're starved to death, just like they did by the Nazis. And our Congressman Brad Schneider supports this. Admittedly, the gentlemen in Nazi Germany were not babies, so I can't quite use the word infanticide for them. But I sure can use it here in the United States. And let's not forget about the 82% who voted that somebody can be on the city council even though he has a liquor license. As I know right now, only 1 member here supports that. It's not reasonable. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Lambrecht. I'll just share with you that there is parking directly in front of City Hall on the street that's accessible to the public. There are handicap parking places directly behind City Hall that are accessible to the
I
public.
use them.
Wonderful.
Thank you, but
I also will continue my challenge to you that infanticide is not legal anywhere in this country. And we will be discussing the liquor license question in the next few months. Thank you for coming. Any other members of the public who wish to be heard this evening? Please come forward and feel free to share your comments.
I don't have my card. Where did you?
That's okay. If you could share your name for the record, that'd be great.
Yeah, my name is Michael Solon, and I was listening to Gita. I can't pronounce your name. I'm sorry.
Gita.
Newkirk. Yeah. Who decides on major initiatives for domestic violence and disability assistance? Because in the community, when there's a problem with domestic violence, it's referred to the community-based organizations who are not handling the situation effectively. They are not exposing the perpetrators. They're not following through with criminal charges, and they're not pursuing any recidivism for the perpetrators. They're just trying to discard them or banish them from the community if they did do something. And if they were a victim of a Darvo scheme, like I was, it's a horrific act of domestic violence. And both partners in domestic violence need a social worker immediately. And I've been in a very violent household for a long time. And my cousins were social workers. And it's a common thing for when there is a domestic violence incident, when families are separated, that social workers step in and they get to the truth really fast. And that's not being done. That wasn't done in my situation. I went to the West Deerfield Township and I told them I was developmentally disabled and I was a victim of domestic violence, and they discriminated against me based on my income. And there were federal guidelines, and I was, how do you say, entitled, not entitled, I earned a federal housing voucher from my past work, and I was discriminated against. And I went to the Moraine Township, you know, Somerville, Anita's, our Guadalupe Somerville, was not trained properly, and that's Anna's responsibility. And the city council has a responsibility and duty to care for all disabled persons in the community and all people that are victims of domestic violence. And this was a horrific act of domestic violence and discrimination that occurred in not only the location that I was in Des Plaines, but also to the communities that I fled to. And these communities I worked in my entire life, 38 years as a first responder. I'm the president and founder of North Shore Corporation in Glenview, Illinois, a 2015 job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And I want to work with you to, number one, I have a motion here that I want you to consider for everyone to write a recommendation to the West Deerfield Township and the Moraine Township for them to approve a third-party ABLE account, a recovery fund, so that I can recover from this horrific act of domestic violence. I lost all of my assets. They were stripped from me by a judge next door that was in collusion with Regina Ann Sinicio, the domestic violence chair of Cook County.
Thank you for sharing your story with us. If you'd like to speak with our chief of police, he is available.
Actually, Mayor, we do have Mr. Solon's contact information, and we can respond to his questions as it pertains to the city outside of this meeting.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you for coming, Mr. Sullivan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nancy Webster, Archivist, Highland Park Historical Society. I wanted to talk about, so 150 years ago, December 1874, there was a concert at the Presbyterian Church that involved a telephone, a synthesizer, and a first ever broadcast. And so in honor of that, the Highland Park Presbyterian Church is graciously reenacting the concert with us. And there will be a synthesizer and a concert and a Kellogg phone that was manufactured in Highland Park in 1890. And because of the holidays, it's going to take place on January 19th next year. I want to invite all the city council and everyone to see this. This is the first time any of these things happened in 1870s, synthesizers, phones, broadcasts, by the most prolific inventor of Highland Park ever, Elisha Gray.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else wishing to be heard tonight from the public?
Levi Kane. Good evening, Highland Park. Tonight marks the closing chapter of a year filled with lies, arrogance, and betrayal. An era authored by a mayor and a council who have shown nothing but contempt for the people they swore to serve. My actions, my fire, my fury, they were born not of malice, but of necessity. When respect is met with disdain, when honesty is crushed by deceit, then respect is no longer a virtue, Andres. It is a weakness. Nancy, you were caught in a bold-faced lie. The evidence was laid bare, undeniable, yet here you sit, still clinging to a throne built on falsehoods. How many more lies have you told? How many more lies will you tell? This council has played their games and betrayed their community, all while demanding our respect. Let me be clear, you deserve none. Respect is earned, not demanded. And what have you earned? Only our distrust, our anger, and our resolve. You've shown us all that this is your hill, and it will be the one upon which your political careers will perish. The people of Highland Park will never forget the frivolous lawsuits you assisted, the local businesses that you bullied, and the chokehold you placed on progress. Your actions, or lack thereof, are not just failures of leadership, they're failures of morality and character. And while you may hide behind your titles and your decorum, we see you for what you truly are, POSs, pathological, opportunistic saboteurs. But this is not just about old Nancy Pants and her goons. This is about the people of Highland Park, a community that deserves better. The days of bureaucratic waste, backdoor deals, and unchecked power are over. You thought you could silence us, dismiss us, shoo us away like some sort of peasantry. But we are still here, louder and stronger than ever. Let this be a reminder the people of Highland Park will no longer bow to a corrupt system. We will expose every lie, every deal, and every betrayal. You've underestimated us, and that will be your downfall. So tonight I close this chapter of my fight, but I do so knowing that this is only the beginning for us all. A new era is rising, an era of transparency, accountability, and justice. We will burn away the rot that you've left behind, and this city will flourish despite you, not because of you. You mark my words, babe. This is not the end. This is the reckoning. Good night.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to be heard?
Mayor, I wanted to correct something. I'm going to correct it every time I hear it in the council chambers. I voted for the amendment to the liquor law, and I have consistently stood by that, and I'm going to correct each time somebody says it incorrectly at the podium,
Thank you.
at public comment. Thank you.
We will now continue on with scheduled business. Items 1 through 28 have been grouped together for omnibus consideration. I've been asked to pull item 11, and am I also pulling item 1? Okay, so I'm seeking a motion.
Mayor,
Yep.
can I pull item 2?
Okay.
Thank you.
So 1, 2, and 11 will be pulled, so I'm seeking a motion to approve items 3 through 10 and 12 through 28.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions on those? No?
Yeah, I've got two quick comments on items 12 and 15. Item 12, today is the 50th anniversary of the Safe Drinking Water Act, so it's a great time for us to reaffirm the city's strong support for existing water treatment standards. The act required the EPA to set maximum contaminant levels for drinking water and required states to comply with them. Highland Park treats our drinking water for residents and sells treated water to other nearby communities, and I appreciate all the work that goes into providing safe drinking water and expect we will continue treating water to the strong standards set by the scientists at the US EPA and that we will not relax our standards. So I appreciate that we have that on our agenda tonight. Also regarding item 15, we're approving the purchase of 8 electric vehicles for the city fleet. Highland Park purchased Prius hybrid vehicles almost 20 years ago, and we were a leader at that time in purchasing hybrids, and I'm pleased that we found an appropriate electric vehicle to replace those Priuses, and that we're continuing to improve the overall environmental impact of the fleet while also saving taxpayer dollars with more efficient vehicles.
Great, thank you. Any other comments or questions on those items? Any from the public? Hearing none, will the clerk?
I'm sorry. Can you please clarify for me the monument sign? What happened to it? That has been pulled. I didn't hear that. Okay,
Yep,
thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I'll ask the clerk to call the vote on items 3 through 10 and 12 through 28.
Councilmember Brockman.
Aye.
Councilmember Ross.
Aye.
Councilmember Tapia.
Aye.
Councilmember Littlewer.
Aye.
Councilmember Stone.
Aye.
Councilmember Bloomberg.
Aye.
Mayor Rotering.
Aye, 7 ayes, no nays. Items 3 through 10 and 12 through 28 have been approved. Item 1 is a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding with the Highland Park Historical Society and the Highland Park Public Library regarding city archival documents. Ms. Webster, did you want to make some comments?
The first MOU in 2015 came to kind of a volatile end in
I'm sorry?
the first MOU, 2015, came to a volatile end in the end of 2016. And one of the issues and one of the reasons I pursued over all these years, privately and quietly, to have an MOU renewed was so we could instill standards. Now, unlike water, if something's 10 times out of what it's supposed to be, it's not going to kill someone. It's a document, right? So we know that. So it doesn't get the attention, but I really hope going forward that the archives returns to the standards we established with the National Archives 15 years ago, and that I'd hope to have in the first MOU and see to continue in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe that is the intention behind all of this, to maintain them at those standards. So are there any other questions on item 1? Did you have anything you wanted to add?
You're recusing yourself from the Historical Society?
Do I need to recuse myself from this if my husband is the president of the Historical Society, despite the fact that they are not participating? I guess they are part of the MOU, so
If you're asking me, it would be my recommendation that you do.
I will recuse myself. You're in charge of number 1. Let me know when I can come back. I'll go fire.
Are there any more questions or comments with respect to item 1? Hearing none, can I have a motion?
I move to approve item 1.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Could I have a roll call?
Councilmember Brockman.
Aye.
Councilmember Ross.
Aye.
Councilmember Tapia.
Aye.
Councilmember Littlewer.
Aye.
Councilmember Stone.
Aye.
Presiding Officer Bloomberg.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0.
Okay. Our next item is item 2. Was it 2?
Yes, I just had a couple questions, just a couple clarifications. So this, for the furniture, approving this furniture, it looks like it's meant to be outside in public space and not necessarily at dining locations. Is that correct? It's also at the bump outs? Yes, okay.
is correct, at the bump outs.
Will there be signage showing that anyone could use this furniture, or how does that look?
Well, that's a good point. We weren't planning on signage, but we certainly could do so if we find that people don't feel invited to use it. So we have communicated with the businesses, and they understand that the outdoor seating area would be available to the general public.
Okay, then one other question.
Can I respond to that? I think, just for your information, during the committee of the whole, we talked about the furniture and whatnot. We talked about it really being open spaces and welcoming for all residents and whatnot. So I think that signage was in a way considered, but because we wanted it open to all, we did not want to go that way.
Okay, yes, I was just clarifying. And then my other follow-up question is just from a child safety perspective. I know it's square tables. I'm just concerned just with the edges with kids. That was just another, and that it's metal if it gets hot. I don't know, that's a problem. So those were my last 2 questions. Thank you.
Well, we did check thoroughly and do references on these tables. So they are made for outdoor dining in this weather. So I don't anticipate any heating elements. We didn't hear any concerns as part of our review of any concerns with children, like a hazard. I mean, certainly my kids got hurt.
Corners could be more rounded.
Yes.
And not
Exactly. I mean, they're
super
made
sharp.
for being out in the elements and with the general population. So I would think they would provide it for that.
Okay, great. Thank you. That was it. Thanks.
Councilmember Stone has a question.
Do they come in a round version? Do we know? We probably don't know, right? Sorry.
We would recommend sticking with the square and rectangle shaped tables as presented. They for better fit, but also then you can reconfigure spaces if you have a larger party with you easier and more adaptable that way.
People will have to watch their children.
Yeah, thank you. All right, and with that, I'm seeking a motion to approve item 2.
So moved.
Second.
Will the clerk please call the vote?
Councilmember Brockman. Aye. Councilmember Ross.
Aye.
Councilmember Tapia.
Aye.
Councilmember Littlewer.
Aye.
Councilmember Stone.
Aye.
Councilmember Bloomberg.
Aye.
Mayor Rotering.
Aye, 7 ayes, no nays. Item 2 is approved. Continuing now to item 11. resolution approving an agreement with the Highland Design Group of Wakanda, Illinois for the design and installation of a monument sign.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. Do want to thank the council members. We had one-on-one communication over the weekend since the packet was posted. So appreciate your questions and feedback pertaining to this agenda item. Put together a couple of slides and just for public information, as well as just to ensure that we are all in sync about the recommendation this evening, and then we have some specific policy questions. But first, we are recommending, as set forth in the staff report, an agreement with Highland Design Group for the design, fabrication, and installation of the monument sign that is proposed off of Park Avenue. This sign would serve the general preserve area. It would serve the Highland Park Senior Center, the private events that are held. Right now, we work with Catering by Michael's, but in the banquet and event space that the city owns, as well as for the rec center, which is owned and operated by the Park District of Highland Park. So collectively, all of those uses, as we talked as a staff, as well as with the Park District, we believe that this property overall is one of the most used and visited sites in Highland Park, with access to residents and individuals of all ages. This site is open overall 365 days a year. The hours of operation start at 5 a.m. and on a day-to-day basis, they close at 10 p.m. And when we have events there, it goes until after midnight. So again, we really feel that this property overall is one of the most used public facilities in our community. This specific proposal was shared with the Park Board at their meeting last week, and overall, the Park Board was supportive of the cost as well as the proposal that is before you for consideration this evening. We again are entertaining this initiative in cooperation with the Park District. So the cost that would be spent on the monument sign would be shared equally between the city and the Park District, 50-50. And specifically what is on for tonight's agenda is again to enter into an agreement with the Highland Group. So we issued a request for proposal several months ago. We received, as set forth in the packet, 2 proposals, and we are recommending an agreement with the Highland Group. Part of the work that they would undertake is the graphic design elements. They have a graphic designer on staff, and so we have been working with them, but candidly, we're not under contract with them yet. But so we appreciate their graciousness in working with us just to get us to this point. But subject to eventual approval, we would work with their team. They have a graphic designer on staff to actually formalize and finalize the design of the proposed sign. And again, what's being proposed is 1 monument sign as well as 2 smaller signs that would provide wayfinding directional into the property. So a couple of policy questions. One is the identification of the sign. So heard from couple of elected officials is, do we need to have all those business names specifically on the sign? And we strongly recommend that we do. Each are distinctly different from each other. We had talked about putting the entire property just under the umbrella of the preserve and saying, you know, the events at the preserve and senior center at the preserve. But even under that umbrella, and it is generally under that umbrella, without that name recognition on the sign, we are missing an opportunity to market and share this property with the general public that may not know that those uses are there. According to Park District Director Brian Romes, he indicated that it wasn't until 2015, or the time period when they added Recreation Center name and logo to the previous sign. Prior to that, our own residents for about 10 years didn't realize the rec center was there. Not everybody, but generally that's the feedback that they were getting. We didn't realize that there was a rec center here, and so that name recognition was important. We looked at, I know there was some discussion of does the sign have to be vertical? Did we look at other options? So we did take a look at an option of a sign that would be more horizontal. So for example, if we had the business name stacked next to each other 2 by 2 under the umbrella of the preserve. And the challenge with that is the majority of this property is in a floodway, which has more significant provisions than a floodplain, for example. And so if it's even possible to do something in a floodway, there's just significant work that would need to be done. And if you have a sign that's more compressed and horizontal versus vertical, you would need to build up a berm area just to have improved visibility from Park Avenue. And so that presents, again, just significant engineering challenges given the fact that it's in a floodway. The way that it's constructed right now, it's on 2 posts. So it would be very similar, and then with the foundation. So very similar in structure to the previous sign that was there, with the exception of having that limestone base. There was a question about the need for an LED display. So if there is support for an LED display, the process of approval is a variation would be required. And this would be no different than the process that we went through when we had the electronic message boards that are throughout the downtown district. Those are electronic message boards, and we would use this board in that same capacity as we use those boards. So public service announcements by our units of government, events and activities that are taking place at the specific event. And so it's important from a day-to-day operation perspective, as well as an opportunity. So if there is an incident such as a boil order, we would use that as one mode of communication to communicate with the public about whatever public service announcement or safety message that would need to be done. If you recall, we had a manual changeable copy sign at the old, on the old monument sign, and we would have to have a staff member go out there and actually like change out the letters. Extremely inefficient, but overall we found value in having the opportunity to change out those messages. So to be able to communicate different events that are taking place there, overflow parking, where that's located. This site, also from the Park District perspective, is home to a number of different basketball tournaments, for example. And so we do have people that are coming from throughout the region that are not familiar with, that area, where to park and what's available there. So that was the rationale. We are recommending the LED display. And also just want to make sure the sign code is very specific in terms of what you can and cannot do with an electronic message board. So the intention is definitely not to use it for videos or anything of that nature. So again, how we are using the electronic message boards in the downtown district would mirror how we would use this at that location. And then finally, there was just a question of how can we reduce cost in terms of this overall project. So one thing that we felt is important in terms of improving the look of that sign is to have an elegant base. And so that flagstone base that's reflected in the packet is something that we do recommend. Now, we would save money if that were eliminated, but then we go back to, I think, very a stark-looking sign, which is not advisable. So overall, the proposed budget, I don't mean to minimize it. It is dollars spent, but we do feel that it is dollars well spent, given the fact of how this property is used and the importance of messaging and the importance of signage on a specific property. And again, this budget was supported by the Park Board, and it is also reflected in our budget for this specific sign. So again, what's reflected in the packet is not the final design. We started out, the Park District put together a design just so we could share it with the prospective respondents to the RFP so they could get an idea of what we wanted. So based on your feedback, we did clean it up a little bit today, and just want to thank Amanda Bennett, who worked on this, our communications manager, as well as Liz Gogola from the Park District. So we updated the sign here that you see here based on council feedback. So the sign that you see on the left is generally what is recommended. We are recommending that we have the name of the preserve. We are recommending the distinct uses also as part of that property. We are recommending the LED display and then that flagstone base. Now, we took out the image that is included in the packet had the unit of government that was responsible for each of those operations. So we eliminated that just to get rid of some of the words. And we put City of Highland Park and Park District on the bottom, on the flagstone. So we thought that that cleaned it up a little bit. And there was a question about logos. We are recommending logos on the sign. Logos, as you well know, people see a logo and they automatically identify what the use is before they even get to reading the word. And so the Starbucks logo, I can tell whenever there's a Starbucks because I look for that logo and you know that you're there. And so very similar, we want to keep showing the logos of our entities before the public, and they'll be able to easily identify them. And so that sign on the left, generally, again, don't hang on the design, but that's what we're recommending is the vertical nature of the sign, the LED display, the logos, and the limestone base. There was some feedback I received from elected officials to not have the LED display. So that's, again, one policy question that we're going to ask. But just in terms of how it reduces the sign, that's what it would look like on the right side without the LED display. If we remove the LED display, it saves $28,000 off the total price. And then, again, in terms of everything that we're getting for the total cost proposal, it's a double-faced sign in terms of the large monument sign, plus 2 additional small wayfinding signs. So the sign that you see there in the preserve, the colors would match whatever we did for that monument sign, but it is recommended that these small signs be at the entrance and exits where you see C and A, or A and C. So that's at the far east and west end of the property. And the large monument sign would be where the letter B is, B like boy. So the electric is already to this property at this location. And so that's where that sign would be located. It's also pretty much the exact location with the exception of the new ingress and egress where the old sign was located. So it would be at that location. Okay, and then so coming back to the policy questions. So want to make sure that one, you're comfortable with having the identification of those businesses on the sign. So the Preserve, Fitness Center, Senior Center, and the Marine Events. And then just want to make sure you're comfortable with the height of the sign, how it's proposed in terms of a vertical height. The LED display is another policy question, and then the flagstone base.
So I see hands. That wasn't like I see dead people, that was just I see hands. Thank you for taking this off of the omnibus, and I know that there are a lot of very detailed concerns, but I think there is a more important policy question, and that is the approval of the contract with this organization with whom we do not have a contract right now, who is putting all of this together. So I don't want us to get like bogged down in the weeds, recognizing that at some point in the future, there will be design conversations. But as for today, that's not the question that you have, right? So in terms of, number one should be, are you okay approving this contract with these people? And then I think 2, 3, 4, and 5 are what comes after that. Because I think if we're not approving the contract, it doesn't really matter what these other pieces are. So do you, I mean, is that sort of an appropriate way to proceed with this conversation? We need somebody to do this job. This went out to RFP. This was the group that was chosen. You need us to approve this contract.
Correct. Well, my understanding is there was some concern with approving the contract because there was a concern with these elements. And so, so you're right. I don't recommend that we design the sign tonight. But for example, if everybody here is supportive of having the businesses' names on there and having the LED and everything, it's $129,000 is reflected in there. I have a concern though, if you tell us to go back out to market to get another contractor. So that
Well, and that's why I kind of want to bring us more to 40,000 feet and say, are we approving this project? I think we all agree we need a sign. at this location, we've put a lot of money into the senior center and the Moraine, and they've, on and on and on. So
And the old sign's gone.
the old sign is gone, so now it's just a matter of,
Right.
knowing. And so I think your first question is, are people okay going with the Holland group? We can talk about, these are all design, as far as I'm concerned, and you don't want to be designing from the dais. So I am happy to have people provide their input, but the question on here at least is, are we approving this agreement with this organization? Right? I still see your hands.
Yeah, yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So with that sort of caveat, I'm happy to start calling on people, but I'm going to urge you, I'll be honest, I don't think you need to answer any of this. I think it's just a matter of, are you okay moving forward with this group? And then later on, we can talk about, I still see you. Later on, you can talk about your design concerns. So Councilmember Bloomberg, you were first.
Thank you. I didn't want to address any of the 4 things that are up at all, so I appreciate that, and I'm completely on the same track that you are, Mayor. The question I have is, I did not see in the packet how this, and I wasn't able to pull up the contract that's proposed. Somehow there was a defect in the file. How are they earning money from us? How is this contractor being paid to do their work? What is the cost of the contract?
$128,000.
128.
I thought that was the cost of the sign.
They would do everything.
That's everything.
Yeah,
So
they
they're
would do
doing
everything.
Half would just be for by the.
It's a design build, so we would hire them and they would
50.
take
They
care of
design it,
everything.
They pay for the materials, and they
And they
have it
install.
constructed.
Yep.
So that's
Okay,
soup to nuts on the
that
sign.
answers my question.
Okay.
I'm okay voting on whether we enter into this contract tonight, and I agree, I don't want to design this from the dais. I would go so far as to say, I don't really want to design it at all. I do want to address some policy issues with respect to the sign at a later time.
Thank you. All right, Councilmember Stone and then Councilmember Ross.
I thought, okay.
I literally saw everybody's hands, so it's all good.
I understand the question. I'm not sure how we can approve the contract without understanding the scope of the work and the price. So if we approve the contract as stated, then that is $129,000 basically for the flagstone base, the LED, the 4 names, the logos, that's what's being
Presumably,
presented.
though, if you take out the LED, then you take out the 28, and that's part of the conversation. Once we're in contract with these folks, that will not be included in the.
So you're saying we've got a contract and this is basically a top estimate and it could go down if we remove things?
Steve, what do you want to say?
Well, the contract is negotiated, or at least it's prepared and in your package. So, Mayor, I understand and appreciate the way you're going about it, and I agree that that is the threshold question. But I think some direction then needs to be given to staff before we sign this contract, if there's going to be parts reduced from it.
Okay, and
I
so
think
that's
just at that
specifically
level.
would be the LED question,
And the
as
lens.
far as I can understand, and the flagstone base.
Flags.
All right, so let's start with, are you okay moving forward with an agreement with these people, and then we can talk about the flagstone base and the LED? And I think that's it in terms of impact on cost, right?
All of these would impact the cost, and that's why they are listed in here as these are the policy questions. So there was one elected official that said, just have a sign that says the preserve, and that's going to reduce your cost significantly. We don't recommend it. And so that's why I guess I'm saying that's the policy.
I didn't say that.
I didn't say you said it. Yeah, I didn't say you said it. So,
All right, so at this moment, I'm just asking, are people comfortable moving forward with this contract? And then we can get into the specifics of the cost reduction questions.
yes, thank you.
Okay, so you're okay. You're okay. You're
I'm
okay. You're not sure. All right,
I'm
wait,
not.
hang on one second. So are you done with your comments? Or you have more to say?
I mean, I've got things to say about the 4 questions which we're
All right, so
not
we'll get
getting
to
to
that in a
yet.
second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councilmember Ross?
Do you want to ask Tapia?
But if we're going to, if we're going to go into these details of pulling things out, this is a sign that's likely to be in place for years, decades, a
Right.
very long time. Taking a few extra weeks to make sure we get this right. To me
I'm
makes
happy to
sense.
talk about this, but I want to ask question 0 first.
Okay.
Thanks.
I guess I'm not really comfortable with, I guess my concern is that if we approve the contract, that we still have the ability, to really completely imagine it however we want. And that's my concern, that, we're locking ourselves in. And I have some comments that I really would like to share, but you want to ask the,
I'm kind of asking the macro right now,
And-
and then
but
we'll
we'll
get down to
get to
the
the
next,
micro.
the 4 in a minute. Yeah.
That's my hesitation in approving the contract. I think we should wait until we have a better rendering of the sign, and then just a flat, drawn picture with the different entities, stacked. And anyway, so that's my response to that. And
Okay. Director Fontaine, are most signs approved, are most sign contracts approved with final sort of design of the sign, or are the contracts usually just the general and then they get sort of designed over time?
Madam Mayor, I don't know, we haven't procured and been part of a sign in this way from the city's perspective, but from what we see from the outside world, they come at us from a number of directions, much like land deals. Sometimes there's a contract purchase and sale, sometimes people choose to take on the risk and bought it, other times they don't.
But they do
What I
have
would say
input
good
into
sign
the
contractor
elements of the
does
sign.
would give that flexibility, particularly if you're going to go through a discretionary review process, which the internal illumination of the sign would require. So that would be a city council consideration.
Mayor,
You
I'll
do
just-
have in the code already the message board, the LED message board is already allowed for city government work, signs rather, and which we already have downtown.
Okay.
Mayor, I'll just remind the council, graphic design services are an element of this contractor.
Right.
And so right now, they've been doing work without a contract in terms of responding to council feedback and updating these sign images. And so I think that's to the mayor's point of, are you
They will
comfortable
work
with
with
this
us.
contract so we could work with them on graphic design?
Right. I'm going to call on Councilmember Tapia first and then come back to you. Thanks. Councilmember Tapia, any comments?
I support just looking at this as an approval of contracting with them and let the design be this next part.
Great. Thank you. Councilmember Stone?
I'm wondering if we can approve the graphic design portion of the contract, and then the rest would be contingent on coming up with a design that we approve.
Okay, thank you for that comment. Councilmember Bloomberg?
Yeah, so as I understand it, the value of the contract is contingent on what we tell this contractor we would or would not accept in the sign. So they may earn less money, but I assume that's something that can be negotiated once we tell you what, as a policy, what this group would or would not support. And then if it gets to be such minimal value, the contractor may say, it's not a big enough job for us. Is that possible? I mean, we're not going to have somebody go out and paint a piece of wood and plant it in the ground.
Right.
This way, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they do work for, they do simple signs or they do extravagant, large, multi-million-dollar deals.
So again, I'm very comfortable getting to the basic issue of the contract, understanding that the cost and value of the contract may change depending on what we tell you. And again, until we get to that point, I'm not going to weigh in on any of these elements.
Okay, so you don't want to talk about the 4 issues, or do you?
I can do that right now if
Okay.
we're ready to do that.
Let's talk about the 4, and then we'll take each one individually. Identification of business uses. Councilmember Ross.
I want to point out that, state the obvious, Park Avenue is one of our major streets, and I'm going to, it's a major gateway street to the central business district. It's, tons of residents and visitors drive, myself included, drive by it every day to get to downtown Highland Park. And, we'll have it for decades. We should do it right. And I wanted to say that this is not a building, this is a sign. And that's why I feel like we can afford to wait. And again, I'd like everybody, when we're considering this contract, to remember that it is, Park Avenue is a gateway, and this sign is a major sign.
Right.
And a major part of the image that you're getting as you come into Highland Park, certainly because it's such an important place in terms of all the activities that take place there.
So to the first question, would you be comfortable having the different business uses included on the sign?
I think and I emailed, I believe I put it in an email to you
But
about.
we're in a public conversation
Okay.
related to
Yes.
this actual item.
So I think that my wish, I think I'm okay with it. Most of the uses are part of the same building. And the preserve is not part of that building. I would wish that the preserve have its own sign, but I see the point of the other pieces being on the same sign. And I also think, well, we're not supposed to design from the dais.
But we are answering these 4 questions.
Yeah.
So you're comfortable having the identification of the businesses on the sign?
I've thought about this obviously a lot since, and by the way, I am the liaison to the Park District, as you know. I was at Wednesday's meeting when they first saw it, and it was the first time they were seeing it. It was the first time I was seeing it, and the Director Rome said that it was going to be on our agenda for Monday. And I do want to say, too, that the Park District had a lot on its plate that night. They're dealing with a major flood in one of their construction zones, and they had a lot they were looking at, not just the sign.
So your opinion, though, is that you would support having the identification of the businesses on the sign?
I think, I would like to suggest that maybe, the preserve be its own piece, but the other pieces, yes, they're part of the same building. That makes sense.
Okay. Councilmember Stone, where are you on number 1?
Yeah, I'm fine with having all of the business uses identified. I would not want them to be identified with logos. I would want a consistency of design to the sign with color and font and kind of a design identity to the whole sign that is uniform.
Okay. Councilmember Bloomberg, where are you on number 1?
I'm okay with what Councilmember Stone has suggested. And I want to add that the whole issue of marketing is really not my idea of what this sign is about. This sign is to let people know they've arrived at a place they intend to go. I realize that some people did not know that the rec center had been located to that address. But I would assume once somebody decided they wanted to use the Highland Park Rec Center and found out what the address was, they would be helped by going there and seeing the sign that says this is the rec center or this is the address. But I don't think we need to advertise to traffic going up and down Park Avenue, hey, we have a rec center here. I don't think that it works that way for any of these particular uses. So I'm not looking for marketing, and to that extent, I think logos are unnecessary.
Okay. Councilmember Littler, number 1.
I am in favor of all 4 signs and all 4 businesses being identified. While I don't look at this at all, I'm very comfortable with the fact that there will be no advertising, and I know we'll get to the LED in a minute. I do look at this as rebranding. We just spent a lot of time and a lot of money and effort on focus groups and whatnot in order to pick out a name for the Moraine. We have gone from being the country club, we have gone from the senior center being moved, and I think we owe it to the public to really identify in a beautiful way for decades to come the names and the processes we went through to get to those names.
So logo or no logo?
Logo.
Okay.
identification, and rebranding all in one.
Okay, Councilmember Brookman?
I'm okay with all of the logos as well, especially, I mean, I guess if you're going there for a party for the Moraine, that should be definitely noted as well. And yeah, I'm fine with that as well. Thank you.
Councilmember Tapia, identification of business uses?
Yeah, I'm in favor of the names, all of them. I'm agnostic on whether a logo would be helpful or not. I would like to see what that would look like without the logo and with the logo. But I would like to see them all listed, and I think it would be helpful for the public to know where they are. And also, I believe that it creates a community feel to just know that things are happening in a vibrant city, even if I'm not going to go to it. It's like, oh, look at what's happening at the rec center or at the senior center or whatever. So I like this communication.
Thank you. Was number 2 vertical versus horizontal?
Yes.
Okay, and then LED and then the flagstone. Okay, Councilmember Ross?
I was going to say that I would hope, first of all, I don't, I mean, I wish there were better examples, to look at the fonts and whatnot. I believe that everything should be consistent looking for, an elegant, sophisticated look. And I would hope, too, that the letters would be maybe white against a dark background.
That will come later.
That will come later, right,
From the
right,
dais.
right. I was going to throw that in. And that's what I wanted to add. I believe that the logos and the original look of it, which is what we're still leaning toward, or according to staff, to me looks like a strip mall. I'll be very honest about it. It looks like a strip mall. And this
Not
is.
that we have anything against strip malls, but I understand.
I mean, it's not what we want for this. Yeah.
All right, we're going to continue on with number 2, vertical versus horizontal. And do you want to know one or the other or both? What is the question?
Well, I don't think we can go horizontal because of the floodway.
Ron's shaking his head because it'll float away and nobody will be able to read it and half of it'll be.
Yeah,
tucked into
I guess,
bushes,
and then
so.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put this on there. That was the rationale that we went vertical, really.
All right, so that's not a question.
I'm sorry, yes.
All right,
Take that
so
out.
back to 3, LED. We're going to start with you, Councilmember Brookman. And it's not going to have advertising. It'll basically say things like Mazel Tov, Jason, or this basketball tournament.
How
is
we've
for
been
this
using the
evening.
downtown electronic message boards, exactly the same exact
Drive
fashion.
slowly, there's ice. I don't
Then,
know.
yes, I'm okay with that LED, especially for special events and like you mentioned, tournaments and like make it special for when people have holidays or
Something special.
parties or tournament. Yeah, they're hosting like, yeah.
And under the code, that gets turned off at 10 o'clock at night, right? Or is it?
None of the LED boards are turned off at night, I can tell you.
Yeah,
High
not in the
school,
city.
11.
11.
the
They
high
should be.
school is on all night.
The high school's on all night. And
We
they're
can
not
address
supposed to
that.
be, so we'll talk to them. Okay. Councilmember Littleworth,
Okay, what is the life expectancy of this sign?
50 years.
Okay, for 50 years, I would like to see an LED display.
Okay.
And the reason is I do not want to go backward. It's the same way as we're investing all this money in it. Between the maintenance and the look in terms of, think of that corner where the bank is.
Right.
Where we have the little black letters and
It's
how
retro.
outdated.
It's cool.
Yeah, that's retro. This would not be retro. So to Council Member Bruckman's point, I completely agree, but I also think this is very forward-looking. In the same way as we're rebranding, I want to make sure 50 years down the line, we're not 50 years back, starting now.
Something cooler will be there in 50 years. Councilmember Bloomberg.
I'm deeply opposed to putting an
Okay.
LED board in the middle of what is currently very dark across the street from Brook Estates and turning this into the first step towards making this Las Vegas Strip. I don't want bright lights there. If you want the sign illuminated with ground lights facing up at the sign so people can see where they're going at night, that's fine. And I'm also concerned about an LED board, even without moving images, as a significant distraction on a major thoroughfare. This is very different from putting these signboards in the middle of downtown Highland Park where people can barely go fast enough to get in and out of a parking space. And they're primarily being observed on the sidewalk by pedestrians. This is I think, both dangerous and I think completely contrary to our effort towards dark skies and inconsistent with the neighborhood that has already struggled, I'm sorry, with Walters Field in the inner part of the neighborhood. I don't want this in any way, shape, or form.
So you do recognize these are people coming off of the highway, passing a gas station and a car dealership? And
They're so far away from this. They're on the highway. The car dealership and the gas station are at the corner of Park Avenue and the highway. This is past the entrance and exit light that goes into Target and into the mall on the other side. It's past the overpass over the bridge and the stream there, and past a fair amount of foliage. This is not part of that at all.
One last challenge to you. No,
Yeah.
because we never disagree. You know, we use that light on Deerfield Central. So if you want to talk about a busy road where we have the light display, we use that with regularity.
I know, that's also a much brighter area naturally.
Okay, you're welcome to your opinion, and we appreciate
Okay.
it. Thank you. Councilmember Stone?
I am also opposed to the LED portion for a lot of the reasons that Councilmember Bloomberg stated. Distracted driving is already an issue in Highland Park. Putting this on a road where people are going 35 miles per hour, I think it's just adding to distraction. I think the distraction of a screen is different than the distraction of those little black and white letters. People's eyes are attracted to those screens. Also, I don't think anyone's going to be able to read whatever's displayed there without compromising safety as they're going 35 miles per hour. And I agree that this is a little bit darker area. Once you cross the river to the east, it's a lot darker.
Okay. Councilmember Ross?
I'm struggling with it because I'm still, you know, trying to imagine a nice-looking sign, and
And LED is not
yeah,
part of it?
not part of that.
Okay.
And what strikes me as sort of odd is that it feels like we're designing from the dais and
That was my comment, but apparently it's also something
in talking
that
about
contributes
this.
to the
So
cost.
I see
You can
the.
be agnostic, to borrow a term
I'm
from
agnostic, I guess, leaning on, since I'm sort of, you know, standing on the principle of good design, I'm feeling like it's not going to contribute to a good look of it. I lean somewhat against it. I'm not utterly decided, but I feel, again, like it would be great to get images instead of thinking about this in the abstract. And it is pretty abstract if you know, at this point. So I think it's hard to make a decision based on that. The people who really like yeah.
Okay. Councilmember Tapia, LED lights or no?
Yes,
Okay.
I think it's contemporary, and I think that's part of where we're going.
And I'm a yes as well. So you have a 4-3 on the LED lights.
Mayor, I just
Okay.
wanted to add also, so as everyone knows, there's a new ingress and egress that was constructed as part of the parking lot reconstruction.
Right.
That's also the location where we are planning a traffic signal. So there would be a traffic signal just to
More
improve
lights.
safety in that area.
Yes. Okay. The last one, we'll start with you, Councilmember Bloomberg.
Love it.
Flagstone base.
Love the flagstone base. It goes with all the other major wayfinding signs in Highland Park.
Okay. Councilmember Stone?
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Ross?
I guess, again, on principle here, I don't feel like we should be picking any of this until we have the full picture of what the, you know, and options of what the sign should look like.
But in terms of the cost and this contract?
I mean,
you want
if
to
it works.
have a provision for
If a provision for it, but what if we, you know, think there's a better material? I don't want to commit.
Okay. Councilmember Brookman?
I would say yes.
Okay. Councilmember Littler?
I would say yes as far as budgeting, but I agree with Councilmember Ross that I'd like, if there's
You
a
want more of a
different
sense of the
material,
choices?
I'd like to know what it is.
Okay.
That's not true. I'm not designing it from the dais or anywhere else.
Okay.
But I'd like to know what they recommend.
Okay. Councilmember Tapia, flagstone base?
Yes, I would say yes.
Okay. And I'm a yes as well. So at least a cost provision for something other than 2 sticks in the ground. Okay? So with that, I am seeking a motion to approve item 11.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comments from the public? No. Will the clerk please call the vote?
Councilmember Brockman?
Aye.
Councilmember Ross?
Nay, because I want a different process.
Okay,
Councilmember Tapia? Councilmember Tapia?
That's an aye. That's a yes.
okay.
Councilmember Littlewer?
Aye.
Councilmember Stone?
No.
Councilmember Bloomberg?
No.
Mayor Rotering?
Aye. 4 ayes, 3 nays. We'll go forward with this contract. We will make sure to have absolute input from those who are concerned about the design elements and the details. That's my promise to you. We will not make it look like a strip mall.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. With that, I am seeking a motion to go into closed session for purposes of litigation and the sale or purchase of land, setting price.
And dessert. Motion to go into closed session to discuss litigation and purchase or lease of property pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2C11 and 5.
Second.
Support me.
Will the clerk please call the vote?
Councilmember Brockman?
Aye.
Councilmember Ross? Aye. Councilmember Tapia? Councilmember,
Okay,
Councilmember Littlewer?
Aye.
Councilmember Stone?
Aye.
Councilmember Bloomberg?
Aye.
Mayor Rotering?
aye, 7 ayes, no nays. We'll go into closed session. Thank you.